Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB early slate on DraftKings for Thursday, June the 6th. This video, I'll be covering the 7-game early slate for Thursday. I will have a video for the main slate. I think there's 5 games on the main. That video will be uploaded after this one. Going to cover the early slate first. Do like we normally do, go over all the pitching options that I like that I'm going to be targeting today. We'll look at some stacks I'll be going to. We'll talk about some BVP plays as well towards the end of the video. But before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. So starting off at the top of the pitcher player pool today, Zack Wheeler is our most expensive option on DraftKings. He's $10,500. He's the only pitcher over $10K on this slate. He's definitely worth the price tag here at home against the Giants. I like this matchup a lot for Zack Wheeler. I've been targeting pitchers against the Giants all year, not going to stop here. We'll talk about a guy that I do like a little bit more than Wheeler, and that's the only reason I'm not going to include him in my core. But Zack Wheeler is definitely going to be in my player pool. I'm going to have some exposure to him. Really good matchup. It's a Giants team that's just really bad offensively. Has some strikeouts in its lineup as well. Pretty good pitcher's park here in the Met Stadium. Low total for the Giants. Wheeler has a lot of things going in his favor today. So he's one of my favorite spend-up options. But like I said, the only reason I'm not including him in my core is because Brandon Woodruff is almost $2,000 cheaper and gets a matchup with the Marlins. And I think Brandon Woodruff has just as much upside as Zack Wheeler today, could potentially even outscore Wheeler. At home here against the Marlins, I think this is a great spot for Brandon Woodruff. 3.4 implied run total for the Marlins right now. A lot of Ks in this lineup. It's just a really bad offensive line, or really bad lineup in general offensively. Just so much upside in this matchup for Woodruff. This guy has been really good this year. Besides his last start against Pittsburgh, where he did struggle a bit, he has shown you a ton of upside. 10 Ks against the Phillies through 8 innings, 8 innings, 6 Ks against the Braves, 23 DraftKings points, 23 DK points again against the Phillies, 31 DK points against the Nationals. Woodruff has a ton of upside, and because he got lit up in his last start, hopefully that drops his ownership down a little bit. That's probably one of the reasons he's so cheap, or cheaper than he should be today, is because he really struggled in his last start. That's not going to keep me off of Woodruff. I think he's one of the top options today, especially when you factor in his price tag and how much cheaper he is than Zack Wheeler. But then for SP2, I think there's a lot of ways that you can go. You could potentially look to a guy maybe like Chris Archer. Chris Archer, not a great matchup with the Braves, but Archer does have a ton of K upside. Even though he hasn't shown it this year, and Archer has really struggled this year in general, he's still a guy that can go out there and get you close to double-digit strikeouts. 9 Ks against Washington, 8 Ks against the Cardinals. His last start against the Brewers, he went 7 innings with 7 Ks. It's a Braves team that doesn't strike out much, so that's the only thing that scares me here. But Archer just gives you so much upside. I imagine he's going to be very low owned on this slate. He is definitely going to be in my player pool, and he will be a guy that I have some exposure to. But I do feel a bit safer going a little bit cheaper, going down to Jose Quintana. I think Jose Quintana is going to be the SP2 that I use the most on this early slate. He's $7,500. He gets a matchup at home against the Rockies. This is a Rockies team that I do like to take opposing pitchers against when they're outside of Coors Field. It's a Rockies team that does have some strikeouts in its lineup as well, especially when you get towards the bottom. But even at the top, like Raimel Tapia will strike out versus lefties. Mark Reynolds will K. David Dahl not as good versus lefties. Ian Desmond will strike out. Brendan Rodgers will strike out. Tony Walters against a lefty will K. Then you got the pitcher in there. 63 degrees, so really good pitching weather. Winds blowing in at 7 miles per hour. Pretty good just pitching environment here in Wrigley Field. I think Quintana makes a lot of sense as a cheap SP2. He does have some upside. He's a guy that is a little bit risky. You never know what you're going to get from Quintana, but we've seen this year he has been able to have some success. 7 innings against the Dodgers, 7 Ks, 7 innings against the Marlins, 7 Ks, 7 innings against the Pirates, 11 Ks. When Quintana's on, he can go out there and get strikeouts. He can have some success. So I really like pairing him with Woodruff today. You pair those two guys together, and you're still left with $4,200 remaining per player, which you should easily be able to work around today. So those are probably the 2 pitchers I like going to the most. But some of the other guys I'll be considering today, I think Sean Anderson, very cheap option at $6,900, makes some sense against the Mets. I'll pretty much take any pitcher against the Mets, at least if they're going to be fully stretched out. And Anderson he threw 105 pitches in his last start. 20 DK points at his last start against the Orioles. Now he gets to face a really bad Mets lineup that does have strikeouts in its lineup. So Sean Anderson as a value I think makes some sense. I want to target Jalen Beeks here against the Tigers because of how bad the Tigers are. But Jalen Beeks just doesn't really pitch deep into games, even when he's the long man. Like, he usually only goes about 80, 90 pitches at most. You probably won't even get 5 innings out of Beeks here. So for that reason, it's hard for me to have a lot of faith in him. He just doesn't pitch deep enough into games. He just doesn't get, or his leash is just not as long as some of these other guys in their price range. Like, Chris Archer could go 100 pitches if he's pitching really well. Even a guy like Quintana could do 100 pitches. Mike Fultonevich, maybe. So for that reason, probably not as interested in Beeks here. Tyler Mahle going to get to face a lot of righties from the Cardinals. So he could be a potentially interesting play. Probably only going to face 3, maybe 4 lefties. Mahle really good versus righties. To struggle more to lefties, but like I said, it's a Cardinals lineup that's mostly right-handed heavy. I wouldn't mind throwing out some Mahle if you want to go there. Maybe even some Miles Mikolas at 6,700 as a value play. But really, I'm going to be focused on Quintana a lot as my value pitcher. Pairing him with Woodruff, pairing him with Zack Wheeler. That's probably what I'm going to be doing the most on this early slate. But let's go ahead and talk about some hitters now. Look for some bats where we can go for hitters. So I think the Rays are in a really good spot here against Daniel Norris. And some of these Rays hitters are very cheap. Willy Adames, Christian Arroyo, 2 guys I had a lot of interest in a couple days ago, and it did work out for me. I think Willy Adames had a grand slam. I like going back to him here against Daniel Norris. Adames has done really well this year versus lefties. He's been much better versus lefties than righties. And Daniel Norris really struggles with right-handed hitters. If you're going to attack Norris, you want to do it with right-handed hitters. So Yandy Diaz, Tommy Pham, Avisel Garcia, Willy Adames, Christian Arroyo, Mike Zunino. I think all those guys make for great plays and make a lot of sense if you're stacking up the Rays today. But even Austin Meadows, even though it's lefty on lefty, I do like Austin Meadows here. He's just such a good hitter. I'll target him as well. He's probably going to be very low owned because of how expensive he is. And because it's a lefty on lefty matchup, people aren't probably going to go there. But I wouldn't mind throwing Austin Meadows in my Rays stacks. But I really like the 4 through 5. I mean the 4 through 6, the 4 through 7, like with Adames, Arroyo, Zunino. Those cheap bats you can get from the Rays, I think, make a lot of sense. I like going to the Rays today, and I really like Willy Adames as a cheap value shortstop at 3,900. And then another team I'm going to be targeting, assuming this game plays, is expect to have some rain. I really like the Red Sox here versus Danny Duffy. The Red Sox are very cheap on DraftKings. They had their prices dropped pretty drastically for this matchup with Duffy. Duffy has been a lot better this year, especially as of late. We'll pull up his game log real quickly. Just look at his last few starts. He really hasn't been allowing a ton of runs, even though he did really struggle in Texas his last start. I know he was pitching really well in that start, I think, and then he got just blown up in one inning. Before that, against the Yankees, just allowed 1 run. Against the Angels, just 1 run. Seems like every time he faces Texas, he manages to struggle. He's been much better lately, but this is a really tough spot for Danny Duffy, facing this really good Red Sox lineup that has a lot of good righties that can hit lefties well. Specifically Mookie and JD. Those are 2 guys that I really like today. JD's only 4,800 on DraftKings. I think he's way underpriced for this matchup. Mookie Betts, I think, is one of the more underpriced bats on this slate at 4,600. Love going to those 2 guys here if you're stacking the Red Sox. Very hard to avoid them versus a guy like Danny Duffy who has been better this year but still will allow home runs to righties. JD obviously has a ton of power. Mookie has a ton of power. Both of these guys just hit left-handed pitching so well. I think they're 2 of the better options in the outfield if you're paying up. So these are my 5 plays for DraftKings today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks now before we end the video. We'll look at some BVP plays as well. So my 2 favorite stacks by far are the Red Sox and the Rays. Those are the 2 teams I'm going to be really focused on this early slate. If the Red Sox game gets rained out, if the weather's going to be really bad, and if we want to maybe look to some other teams, I think going up here, if you're not playing Chris Archer, I think you could stack the Braves versus Chris Archer because of how much he's shown he can get blown up. Archer has shown the ability to get Ks. At times when he's just off, he really struggles with his command. Allows a lot of walks, and then when you're allowing guys to get on base, if they hit a home run, that just really shoots you up the leaderboards if you stack the Braves. If you stack the 1 through 3 or the 1 through 4, and Acuna gets a walk, Dansby gets a walk, and then Freddie Freeman comes up to hit and hits a home run, That's going to be really good for your stack. And Archer, been allowing a lot of walks this year, has been allowing some home runs. So you could look to the Braves. I feel like I'm going to be siding more on Archer. But if this game between the Red Sox and Royals gets rained out and I need to look somewhere else for my stacks, that might get me off of Archer and might put me on some Braves bats. But Red Sox, Rays, two teams I'm going to be really focused on this early slate. Those are teams that I really, really like. The Brewers do have a pretty high total against Caleb Smith, but Caleb Smith is just such a good pitcher. He's done really well this year that I don't think I really want to target him here or target against him here. I don't think I'm going to be going to the Brewers, even though their run total is at 4.7 runs, which is one of the higher totals on the slate. Caleb Smith is just not a pitcher that I want to attack, so I don't think I'm going to be going there. So let's go ahead and talk about some BVP now before we end the video. So there are actually a few BVP plays on this early slate. I'll hit them real quickly. Brandon Belt's gone 4 for 12 off of Zack Wheeler. Jackie Bradley Jr. 3 for 10 off of Danny Duffy. Mookie Betts, great BVP versus Danny Duffy. 6 for 10 with 4 home runs. So 6 hits versus Duffy. 4 of those 6 hits have been home runs. He's hit him really well. Jesse Winker 5 for 11 with 2 home runs off Miles Mikolas. And lastly, Mark Reynolds has gone 4 for 17 with a home run off Jose Quintana. So those are all the BVP plays that I got for this early slate, guys. I think that is it for the video. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, just make sure you drop a like down below. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GO if you do have any questions. This is my early slate video. We'll be back in a few hours with my main slate video. So I would appreciate it if you would check that out if you're planning to play the main slate. But good luck today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.